G'day viewers, how are you? Welcome to a weekend edition of TFU. Talk about what totally fucked up things I've seen during the week. And look, I'm sad to say I have to start with some of the most fucked up news I've ever reported. Namely, Netflix have cancelled one of my favourite series after just releasing the third season of Santa Clarita Diet. It's a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it, I recommend go binge it, and then you can be just as disappointed as me if they're not going to renew it. But you could join all the fans online. I've seen very big outpouring of they've made a mistake, and we have seen that sort of support for a show can either get it picked up by the network that was running it, or a different network might pick it up. So we might get more Santa Clarita Diet. It is such a good show, such a good cast. It's basically a zombie comedy. Suburban housewife becomes zombie and family tries to function as normal. It's a really good show, and it sucks. It's just more proof there is no God that a good show like this gets canned when there's so many other shitty shows running around. But hey, and the cast is all being magnanimous how great it was. My personal favourite was Timothy Oliphant, who's like the support lead role. He actually said, it was a great show, loved working on it. In fact, I loved it so much, I'm going to keep going in and doing scenes on set. And it's up to them whether or not they record that, which I think is just perfect. Hopefully it'll come back, but no, I'm just traumatized. That's the worst fucked up news. I don't think I can talk about anything else. All right, I'll talk about other things. Hey, as I was saying, go on Twitter and join everyone in saying, bring back Santa Clarita Diet. Speaking of Twitter, there was a couple of interesting bits of news this week. One is that the CEO and co-founder of Twitter, Jack, had a closed-door meeting with Donald Trump, where it appears the most weighty thing that was discussed was that Trump was upset that he loses followers, and they had to explain to him something that's made public repeatedly. There are a huge number of bot accounts on Twitter. They're basically spam bots, and Twitter tries to identify them and remove them. So you tend to get a fluctuation in follower numbers. Particularly, popular accounts are a magnet for bot accounts, so they're going to have a lot of variation. And I'm sure Trump understood every fucking word of that. I'm sure he didn't sit there with that stupid fucking expression on his face, and then whine and complain some more because he can't stop playing the fucking victim. But the second story I saw about Twitter, somewhat related to Trump, I found it hilarious. A lot of people have pointed out repeatedly that Trump has directly breached terms of service on Twitter multiple times, so many times. If he was just Joe Average on the street, his account would have been shit-canned ages ago, and Twitter doesn't have the guts to do that. I personally think it would be hilarious if they did, but they've made it clear they don't have the guts to do that, so Trump can literally say whatever he wants, promote white supremacy as he does on a regular basis, and he won't get kicked off Twitter. But a story came out that Twitter has been trying belatedly to take a bit more responsibility with the fact their platforms used to spread hate, misinformation, and radicalize dangerous people. And they admitted they'd come up with an algorithm to try and identify people who were promoting white supremacist ideals, seeing we can no longer pretend white supremacists aren't violent fucking terrorists, the same as Islamic extremists are violent terrorists. So they came up with an algorithm to identify the common things that white supremacists do, and then they did a test on it, and they realized if they tried to do this algorithmically, they'd end up shit-canning a bunch of Republican politician Twitter accounts because they fucking routinely promote white supremacy. And that's just beautiful. Sums it all up. There's like, they're scared of being seen as biased, but if they acted objectively and put an objective set of rules of, this is what white supremacists do, a bunch of Republicans would be caught up in it because they're fucking white supremacists. And so they go, oh, we can't do the objective thing because the actual scum fucks will say we're biased, and no one at Twitter has the guts to stand up to the scum fucks. I mean, you could look at Jack's history and go, he actually seems more than a tad okay with a lot of these white supremacists. You don't have to be too much of a conspiracy theorist to see people he's been pally with are extremely questionable, which leads you to ask a couple of questions about him. But yes, Twitter, scared of white supremacists. What's new? Just briefly on US politics, because there's now something like 20 candidates declared for Democratic nominee for president. Now, look, 10 of them are just fooling themselves. They're nobodies who will disappear and people won't even remember them. It'll narrow down. But the most recent to formally declare was Joe Biden. And he's a fucking terrible candidate if you are at all interested in progressive views. It's just like, I see the media going, Joe Biden, he's the best chance of beating Trump. Why? Because he's shit. And it's not the creepy, gropey, hair sniffy stuff. That's not great. It's like, look at his voting record is fucking terrible. He's virtually a Republican. And that's what the media in the US mean and the pundits mean when they say, he's the best chance. He's like, ooh, he doesn't scare us, so you should go for him. Which is horseshit. I mean, bloody hell, the world is so strange. The world is so screwy. Anyone who thinks they can predict what's going to happen, particularly in Trump world, is fooling themselves. Or more likely, they know they don't know shit and they're just fooling the public and getting a paycheck. I mean, seriously, some of the stuff that gets on TV news in America gets published in American media, and it's like the worst fucking takes ever. And these people are being paid to do it. I mean, I'm sitting here giving my awful hot takes, but no one's paying me to do it. I'm just doing it because in this crazy world of ours, anyone can do it. But it blows my mind what some people get paid for. It's so fucking bad. And I guess, yeah, the next year and a half is just going to give me a lot of mileage to rant about things. And hey, the next 3 weeks gives me a bit of mileage ranting about Australian politics. That's when the federal election is on. 3 weeks from now, it'll be over. So look out on election night for me doing a live stream. Probably getting smasherundi. But I mean, what did we see this week? I love just the repeated examples of the Conservative parties and the Conservative media mouthpieces. It's very hard to work out which way that works. Is the LNP the mouthpiece of, like, the Murdoch media, or is the Murdoch media the mouthpiece of the LNP? It's very hard to see which one's driving the car, but they're so hand in glove. And the accepted wisdom put out by the LNP and echoed in the Murdoch media was, voters don't like Bill Shorten. Well, voters fucking despise Scott Morrison or don't know who he is. And honestly, Shorten has the same thing. These are not memorable people. But they put out, people don't like Bill Shorten. And to show how on topic they are with that, just how keenly they picked up the electorate's mood. One of the biggest trending hashtags in Australia this week on Twitter was hashtag I like Bill Shorten. I'd say it makes them look stupid, but there's so few things that don't make them look stupid or corrupt. I'll go on record, and I've said this repeatedly, I actually don't particularly like Bill Shorten. I think the fact that he was instrumental in the offing of Kevin Rudd and then the flip to be instrumental in the offing of Julia Gillard are bullshit, and the fact he was rewarded with the leadership of the party after that was complete bullshit. And in opposition, all he's ever done is, I'm not that guy, and tried to dodge saying virtually anything, which is weak as piss. The country deserves better. The country deserves someone who inspires you to vote for them. Not just, well, at least I'm not that guy. He absolutely doesn't deserve to be Prime Minister in my book. But the country desperately needs Labor to win the next election for a number of reasons, and I have some faith that the Labor team, and maybe he's Prime Minister, he'll stop being so fucking scared, because I've seen him make good speeches. I've seen him push good policies. He's just been so fucking scared to upset anyone for the last couple of years. I hope that goes away if and when Labor win the election. But yeah, I don't particularly like Shorten. That's not relevant. I mean, he was out campaigning and a woman in the crowd called him a prick and he just went, oh, what have I done to make you a prick? And she started saying stuff about the Liberal Party and goes, I'm the Labor candidate. I'm not Scott Morrison. The woman goes, sorry, thought you were Scott Morrison, which really sums up the pair of them empty suits. They're just awful. But policy-wise, Labor Party is definitely what Australia needs. So we don't have a presidential system, so I don't really get this Morrison and other leaders, this fixation on, I didn't vote for them. You don't vote for PM, okay? You vote for your local member. Party chooses the PM. But yes, they are a figurehead. They do tend to be the driver of policy, but it's not an autocratic system like a presidential system. They have to work with their party. Anyway, he's probably getting in, hopefully by... I really want it to be a historic, crushing win. For the good of the Liberal Party, if nothing else, they need to learn this ridiculous pandering to the extreme right-wing fringe doesn't work for them. They need to actually get back to some core principles and stop this ridiculous bullshit. And I think they need a really crushing defeat to wake them up to that fact. But we will see. I mean, and there's the other weirdo extreme right independents trying to claim the ground, like Pauline Hanson's One Nation. And what I love about, they form these extremist groups and try and get people together to stand for Senate or Parliament. And the funny thing is, if you get together a bunch of extreme fringe whack jobs, they don't get on very well. Like, one of the people running for Pauline Hanson's One Nation had a YouTube video saying how, you know, the only thing worse than a gay boss would be a woman. He goes, I don't have a gay boss and I don't have a woman boss, and there's a reason for that. And then he got nominated to stand for One Nation, so he deleted the video, but of course that doesn't work on the internet. And of course, hilariously, he has both a female boss and a gay boss now. Female boss in Pauline Hanson, leader of the party, and gay boss in her chief of staff, James Ashby. So on top of him being an obnoxious asshole, he's also apparently living his worst nightmare, which is pretty goddamn funny as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, One Nation will probably do the usual route of tearing itself apart. Clive Palmer thinks he's Australia's Donald Trump, which is just such a shit low aspiration goal to have. And he's got these embarrassingly photoshopped images of himself on billboards everywhere. He spent millions of dollars while owing workers millions of dollars. And it's like, dude, we know you don't look like that. We know that's photoshopped, okay? And then even more delusional than him is Numpty 19 votes, Fraser Anning, who's certainly using his 15 minutes in the spotlight, thinks he's going to stand independently and get in, and he almost definitely isn't. But he's going to be a colossal asshole while he can get any sort of public profile. And again, if and when he's out of the parliament, if anyone in the media ever gives him a platform again, they're the scum of the earth. Like, if you thought his comments about the Christchurch shooting was bad enough, where he explicitly blamed the victims for the shooting, he's since gone on. He's not just saying no Muslims in Australia. He said, I'm going to ban black immigration. It's like, yes, you said the quiet part out loud, but you realised you'll never face any repercussions for that, because in this country, apparently, calling someone racist is more outrageous than being racist.
What you should do is, because it's really good, you should subscribe to AngryAussie and put it on social media and tell all your friends and all your enemies and everyone, grab cats and put notices on them. Can you take the gun away from me now, please?
Stay on script.
Okay.
Subscribe to AngryAussie and share this with your friends.